Hello, Tom.
Hello, Hamza. How you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good.
Hello, how's it going?
Vegas, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, Hamza. Thank you for taking this call. Madeline is joining us in a second. There she is.
Hello,
Hi, how you
Madeline.
doing?
Nice to meet you
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
nice to meet you.
First of all, thank you so much for taking the time. I know a chat with Vice isn't necessarily on the top of many people's list of what they want to be doing with their time, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm expecting you're familiar with at least some of Vice's work. We're a very scattered news organization that does all kinds of stuff, and this would be what we're working on now. And I'll tell you a little bit more about it. It would be a 1 hour special, but as you probably know, we do all kinds of things. My focus is usually the Showtime show, which is kind of like our flagship show. But yeah, so if you don't mind, I can start by telling you a little bit about what we're developing, what we are hoping to, the kind of questions we're hoping to have answered. I mean, you're probably aware that Vice did an hour special about Andrew Tate earlier that kind of touches on some of these issues. And this movie isn't that. It's not a follow-up to that. We didn't work on that, but I mean, I suppose in a tangential way, some of the themes can be adjacent. I think what we're looking at is this sort of ongoing crisis of masculinity in men, particularly it seems in the Western world, but probably elsewhere too. There seems to be this like moment in time when men are struggling to figure out what it means to be masculine, what it means to be a man. The terms that we've used traditionally for masculinity, strong, silent, stoic, have sort of become negative or have negative connotations to them. So yeah, there's this interesting moment in time when we're trying to figure out what does it mean to be a man today. And it seems to me like people have different answers to that. And say what you will about Andrew Tate, he was a man or is a man that a lot of other men looked to for answers. So there seems to be this need among men and boys throughout the world to kind of figure out themselves. And I think what we're looking to understand is like kind of like what's going on and how can we deal with it? Is this desire to figure out what it is to be a man? Are we sort of throwing around words like anti-feminist misogyny? Like, are we sort of attaching bad connotations to people who are just trying to get to the bottom of what it means to be a man, what masculinity is? And obviously, you're an influential person in this space, and we've looked at some of your work, and you've had some really interesting takes and point of views, which is why we're really excited to pick your brain a little bit and chat. Does that make sense?
I love the sound of that.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So, I mean, if it's okay with you, and this is obviously totally off the record, but we're just kind of like curious about what. First of all, like, how did you get into this space? What was it that you felt you had answers to that you could share?
I started by telling my story online that I was a directionless young man who wanted to work hard but wasn't sure on what, hadn't received guidance. I didn't grow up in a single mother household, although many men in my position have. And without that guidance, life isn't so great. You get stuck in addictions, you're watching porn for 3 hours a day, you're smoking weed, eating junk food, got no friends, obsessing and fantasizing over women, wasting time. And so it began as me just telling my story because I wanted to free myself. I literally just wanted to make enough money online so that I didn't need to work a job that I hated. And before I knew it, an audience started to build. People appreciated how authentic I was being because I apparently have no filter and I tell everyone my life story. And people appreciated that. And one step at a time, I end up leading a global movement with a huge level of responsibility, hundreds of messages every day, hundreds of comments every day below every single video of someone saying that this work has changed their lives, that they needed some kind of father figure or maybe a big brother figure to guide them and to tell them that this is something that they can transform their lives, they can work hard, they can be disciplined, they can improve, and they don't have to live the life that they've seen perhaps their fathers or their male friends live. Because you don't see this much in the modern day.
So talk to me about that. What is it about this moment? And I don't want to say just boys growing up now, because I mean, I certainly feel it too. Like this is a moment of strangeness for us men. So what do you think it is about this moment and not 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago?
Yeah, very good question. I'd say two major issues that come to mind is feminism and the globalization of the dating marketplace. Feminism, it started with the suffragettes around 100 years ago, an amazing movement, very brave what those women did. And it's got now to the point where it's modern feminism is largely seen as anti-men. And of course, the internet makes this worse. You see the extremes from both sides, but men don't feel like they are heard at all. In fact, one of my teachers inside of my school, he often shouts and gets like angry when we speak about male health issues because he's worked in that field, and he says that women's issues are taken very seriously by doctors, GPs. We live in the UK, so there's the NHS. Men's issues, not at all. If for us three men here, if we have some kind of issue like you're growing breasts, the doctor isn't going to do anything unless you pay private. All women actually know exactly what to do to feel their breasts, for example, for breast cancer. Most guys have never ever been told once what to actually do to search yourself for testicular cancer. I don't know, do you? Right? There was an advert once I saw, 1/4 of suicides are women. Here's the women's hotline. So 3/4 are men. No talk. 90% of homeless people are men, 90% of suicides are men, 90% of workplace deaths are men. And this is not a men versus women. I think it's very important that it's a men plus women versus the problem. But these days, there's such a rivalry. And I think it does start from, one, we're seeing the extremes of feminism and men haters. Two, we then see these injustices where you see false rape accusations. You see men who have been divorced by their wives and they lose everything. And so men are so fearful of getting into relationships these days. And, you know, it's not exactly a problem of feminism, but there was something which was unforeseen, that when women can make their own money, suddenly the man isn't needed. Now, this is not women's fault. They're doing amazing for themselves. It's amazing that you've been able to develop these values and skills. But suddenly, the thing that would have attracted a woman to a man is gone. When a man's value is no longer based on his ability to provide, well, then what should he value in life? No one knows the answer. And if you feel purposeless as a man, you may as well go play video games, because at least you're getting some sense of purpose, brotherhood, achievement, competitiveness in the virtual world. And so you see this, and then this, of course, then links into the other thing I said, the dating market, because now we have this growing divider of men, where there's a top few percentage of men who are taking all the women. or I'll say in a different way, all of the women are going to these guys by opening up the sexual marketplace, by being more like sex positive, especially for women, which even though like it sounds bad what I'm saying, when you do that, suddenly women will just go with the best guy that they can get, which they're not wrong for. Of course you would. But the best guy that a woman can get is also the best guy that her female friend will get. And it's the same guy over and over again. And so there's one guy out of, let's say, 20 who slept with 16 of the girls in the other 20 group of the women. And so now all these guys here, these horny, lonely guys, their lives they're not that good. And so you mix feminism with the globalization of the dating market with Tinder and Instagram. Suddenly the 16, 17, 18-year-old guys who, when you think back, you just have a crush on the girl in your class or your workplace or something. Suddenly she's actually going to Dubai this summer to meet a millionaire there. What are you going to do? Competition's insane.
It's interesting. I mean, you touched on the majority of suicides being male, and there's all these different factors that my area of expertise. I'm European, but I've lived in America for a long time. Like these deaths of despair have many different reasons, whether it's deindustrialization, the vanishing of the middle class, opioids, depression, whatever. There are these things that seem to outsize the affect men. But I wonder if another aspect of it is the way we men interact, right? Because you talked about how men's health issues, depression, loneliness, aren't things we talk about. But so is part of your job then to not only shine a light on these issues, but also teach us men to be more open among ourselves, to like advocate for ourselves, or to voice our loneliness, and to sort of be brave enough to say that I feel sad, lonely, depressed, scared. Is that something that we men need to get better at too?
Not quite. I think a lot of the modern movements, we can say from the Matrix, is for guys to open up and to talk to each other and to talk to their partners. And I think that mission has been a complete failure because men don't actually benefit from talking. I don't know the real science. I don't know how real this is. I just saw once that our brains work in a different way. For women, it's actually therapeutic to talk. For men, it actually doesn't do anything. Our lives change from action and action alone. Me and you could sit and talk about our problems all day. Our problems would still be there. So it's not that we're unwilling to talk. It's that we've needed someone to see like a fault inside of us, to point it out, to criticize it and say, okay, you're at point A, here's how to go to point B, and then add some level of accountability, a little bit of shame. These days, that seems like horrible things, but I'm assuming you've done a little bit of research on my videos. The way I talk is not nice. I sound like a massive asshole on my channel, and I probably am, but it works because this little kid, he needs to be told. I need to call him a pussy. I need to call him a loser because suddenly something snaps in his brain because it's the first time another person is actually speaking to him like this. Because all he's heard is you're amazing, you're beautiful. Here's the participation trophy. Suddenly there's a guy in a bathrobe who's telling him you're a loser because you play video games. So go and do some push-ups, and maybe you'll get a bit of my respect. And that,
so there's a level of optimism there, right? There's something you can do.
Oh,
there are steps that you can take.
Of course.
That's interesting. How would you say your message has changed as your audience has grown, and you've done this for a while, so I mean, you've changed as well. I noticed a while ago you wrote something like, we need less degenerate red pill players in the masculinity space. You said something like, the red pill is over, alpha males are cringe. So tell me a little bit about how you've seen the space change and how you've changed with it.
Yeah, good question. So before I started YouTube, I've been on YouTube for 3 years. Before I started YouTube, I was deep in the red pill space on the forums online. And even they get a lot of flack for misogyny, hate speech. I wouldn't be here today without them. Because again, I'm 16 years old, logging into this subreddit every morning on my phone. And it's just all these guys saying, stop being a pussy, get into the gym, lift some weights, work hard, meditate, read good books, stop being a pussy, stop like harassing this girl who's not even interested in you. Like, and it's so weird because everyone thinks that that's like misogynist advice, but they helped me to not become a woman hater, even though this specific forum, the Red Pill, this movement is seen as like this women hating space. But I started way back then as this young, clueless guy, absolutely unsuccessful in all metrics. I was overweight. I was addicted to porn, to video games. I'd just waste all my time. I didn't perform well in school. I didn't get any attention from girls whatsoever. And we can say the Red Pill is kind of like level one of the progress you can make, where you'll learn that what you've been told about women is not true, that you need to be a certain kind of man and you need to speak to women in a way that you've not been told. You know, you see in the Hollywood movies, it's the nerd who stalks the girl who eventually gets her, right? It's the low status nerd who fantasizes about the girl. He keeps fantasizing. She rejects him 3 times. He's still fantasizing about her. He's still stalking her essentially. And eventually the nerd gets her. See, guys, this is what you've just got to do. And so every guy believes that's the way, that even when a girl rejects him, he's got to be pursuing her even more. And the Red Pill was the first time, even though it's seen as this woman hating space, it was the first time which said, like, if she doesn't like you, move on. Go and improve yourself. If she's rejected you, take it with a bit of respect. Say, fair enough, no problem, and go work on yourself instead. And the reason why you're getting rejected is because you're like 20% body fat. It's because you watched porn like 3 days ago. And even if you did had sex with her, you'd probably be imagining some other women because your brain's so fucked up. And also you're broke. And also your clothes are unclean. It's like, these are the things, you know, you needed your father to say, but then the fathers aren't in the household anymore. So this was all around 10 years ago. And it was 3 years ago when I started on YouTube in more of like the self-improvement space. And I didn't really speak about masculinity for a while. And when I started to venture into that naturally, as I became more of a man myself, I saw the rise of so many other guys speaking about the same things, about becoming a man, becoming strong, becoming masculine. And one by one, each one of them has been silenced or has been hated on for saying the same things that I'm saying here, that men should be strong, that that men should develop values of discipline, of stoicism, that men should have a strong mind and body, that men should be around their brothers, that men and women play different roles, which I think absolutely they do. Every religion says that, every spiritual book says that. Men and women, of course, have different roles. It's just the modern world which has told us that men and women are exactly the same, which has really taken the beauty out of everything. Even for a working relationship, to say that you're exactly the same as a woman, it's almost an insult to both of you, because you bring uniqueness with masculine energy and feminine energy. And it's like we're all just wearing masks, pretending that, yeah, because we're all scared, right? We're like, yeah, of course we are. Of course, we're all equal. We're all the same. And more and more influencers are coming into this space to reveal that that's probably not the truth.
Just on a more sort of nuts and bolts topic, when you do your videos, how much do you prepare for them, and how much? I mean, because you're a very eloquent, clearly a very intelligent, well-spoken person. So how much do you think about what you want to say? Do you have a plan for each episode, or is it just like, are you just jamming?
I find the answers as I go along.
So to you, this is almost like a search for yourself too. You're looking for something as you talk about it.
Let's say my YouTube videos are one step behind me. I take the step, I report on what happened, and then I take another step and I report what happened.
So what would you like to see happen for yourself, if the assumption is that we're all on this journey to become better human beings? Where would you like to go? Which is a pretty big question, but what the hell?
Fatherhood.
A good one.
Thank you.
I was just at my daughter's elementary school graduation a couple of hours ago.
How was it?
It's a good time. It's good. Cried a little bit. I'm not ashamed to say. There was one kid who got the perfect attendance reward, and I just wanted to shout "nerd" at him, but that's fine. hurl some abuse at kids from time to time. Um,
So
so I could have this conversation for hours, but and hopefully we'll be able to. But do you have any questions for us? How this might work?
what's the title of the documentary?
Not up in
Great
the air.
question. We're not there yet.
That's the one that everyone hates to come up with. I mean, also it's a little bit like the path. We create the path as we walk, and oftentimes the title of a project comes out of something that has been said throughout. Yeah, I can't help you on that one.
Okay. Well, one question I have is, often these documentaries and interviews I've seen with influencers in my space, often they end up turning more about the influencer, about his potential misogyny or hate crime or something. How much is your documentary going to be based on men's issues compared to, for example, speaking and highlighting the problematic aspects of the male influencers in the space?
So so like I told you, this isn't a follow-up to the Tate doc, right? Obviously, we're going to have to touch on Andrew Tate because he was such an influential figure in this. But I think the answer to that is that Tate allegedly did some messed up stuff that he's being tried with, but he also had answers to some questions that a lot of men have. And I think that's what we want to focus on. What is the hole or the gap or the need that whether it's male influencers, whether it's male retreats, whether it's experts on masculinity, like what is this? I mean, I think for me as well, it's a little bit of a personal journey because it's something I'm curious about myself. So if you want us to do a Hamza Ahmed profile or like a portrait, I don't think this is it. But I think the issues that you speak to are what we would like to explore.
That sounds good.
And I think ideally we're looking for someone like yourself who is very influential in the space, kind of giving answers to people, but we're also hoping to talk to young men and boys who are seeking that stuff out. So we kind of want to fill both sides of the story as somebody who's, and we're casting around for voices that represent both of those perspectives. So it's like, if you're in a position of influencing, we want to find somebody who is being influenced or is looking for guidance and like tell the full story there.
Yeah. I think we want to get out of these sort of somewhat bad faith arguments around this stuff too. You hear so much about like hundreds of thousands of boys turning into Andrew Tate. And it's like, well, that's a horrible thing to say. Like all boys aren't the same. And like, you can't say that hundreds of thousands of boys are going to grow up bad because of the internet. That's a very low estimate to have of boys and men. So I think we want to just kind of ask some big questions and snoop around for the answer. But it's not about what the masculinity or male influencer sphere is or isn't. That's not what this is.
That sounds very valuable.
I hope so. It's something that I wanted to do here in America for a long time. So I mean, hopefully we can do it on a more international scale. So I think what we would love to do, are you in Britain or are you in elsewhere?
Yeah, I'm in the UK.
Are you from Birmingham, by the way?
No, from Manchester.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought I could detect some Brummie in there. But I mean, I think what we would love to do is we'd love to come and sit down and talk with you and sort of whatever access you choose to give us. Like these documentary, like it is a documentary. It's not just a straight up interview. Like we would like to see how you work a little bit, but that's completely up to you and your comfort level. I mean, obviously you're a media savvy person as well, so you know how these things work.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, if you'd be up for it, if you'd be up for it, we'd love to find some time, maybe next month, to come spend some time. And you don't have to answer right now. You can think about it. And
yeah, please send me the details via email. I'll check my calendar for you, and we'll get something booked in.
I love that. I love
Cool.
that. Tom, Madeline, do you guys have anything to add? We can also send you some other stuff that we've done that's sort of representative of our work a little bit too, if you want.
Please.
I think a kind of nuts and bolts question I have is like, could you tell us a bit? Is there a team around you? Like, do you have animation in your videos? Are you editing them? Kind of like, who is in your ecosystem of production, and how big is that team?
I did have a YouTube team of 14, and then
Wow.
I completed that part of my life. So I ended up splitting ways with everyone, coming back here, and going
Okay.
solo for a little while. Now I've got a team
Mm-hmm.
again for YouTube. It's just 2 people, and for my online school, there's 11 people in there.
Okay.
And how much
Cool.
do you interact directly one-on-one with your fans? I mean, people must contact you all the time with questions and requests for help. How much of that is part of your day?
Every day, solid half an hour, 1 hour directly with people on video calls, and inside of my private school, that's where they've got a lot closer access to me. So they write posts and comments, and I reply to those. So I'm in very frequent contact with my fans.
And so, and this is something we can talk about when we sit down, but is there like a general sentiment? Like if you were to sort of reduce the sentiment of the young men you talk to, like is it frustration? Is there anger? Is there confusion? Is it a little all of the above?
There's hope.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I hope we can come hang out with you. This is really interesting.
I'd love that.
Wonderful.
Is there anyone else in this kind of on this topic that you think we should be paying attention to? Anybody that you're watching that you really love? Anyone that we should, we're on YouTube just like trying to absorb as much of this as we can. Anyone we should be paying close attention to?
And also the flip side of that, any pitfalls that we should avoid
Avoid.
that the media tends to fall into.
Yeah, there's not a lot of trust with modern media. So I'm not sure who would take the call. Of course, I've got my own networks.
Yeah.
I think Andrew Tate would be your best bet.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm not sure if that will happen again, but
no, and he would just be such a like. There's so much out there about him already, so then it would just be the Andrew Tate show again, and I don't know how much we can add to that. So,
is there anyone else who's inspiring you when you're thinking through these issues? You're like, who's kind of an intellectual partner in this?
Where I'm learning everything about men and women from, masculine and feminine energies, from this book,
Mm-hmm.
The Way of the Superior Man. The author is David Data. I'd be extremely surprised if you end up getting Data, because he doesn't do interviews. He's a actual spiritual teacher, doesn't use the internet and everything. But if you end up getting David Data on a talk, I am totally convinced that this book is the future of male and female dynamics. And that's what I'm preaching to.
Is it new?
Oh no, this is 20 years old, but he's been predicting these things for a while. And the spiritual guys, they know what they're talking about when it comes to these intersexual relationships. And I think this is what the red pill's catching up with now.
Let's get 3 copies of that book. All right. Well, we'll let you get back to your day. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hamza.
We'll talk again.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.